You will never find greatness hiding in comfort. Your brain was never designed to make you extraordinary. It was designed to keep you safe, to keep you small, to keep you the same. Every time you hesitate, every time you avoid the hard thing, your brain whispers, stay here, it's safe. But what it's really saying is, stay average. You see, success doesn't come from what's easy. It's born in the moments you do what your mind resists. The moments you take control and say, I run this brain, it doesn't run me. That's when you start to build power, identity, and freedom. You know what's crazy? Most people think failure is what kills dreams, but it's comfort. Comfort is the silent killer of potential. The brain loves comfort because comfort feels safe. It's predictable, it's familiar, and your brain's number one job is to keep you alive, not to make you fulfilled. So the moment you step towards something uncertain, something uncomfortable, your mind screams, stop. It tells you you're tired, that it's not the right time, that maybe it's too risky. And if you listen long enough, those excuses start sounding like logic. But what they really are the bars of a mental cage you've built with your own thoughts. Every person who's ever achieved greatness had to go to war with that voice. They had to decide that comfort was no longer the goal. Because if comfort is your goal, growth will never be your reality. Your brain's instinct is survival, but your soul craves expansion, and those two forces are constantly battling for control. One says, play it safe. The other says, let's see what we're made of. The moment you start doing hard things, you tell your brain, I'm not here just to survive, I'm here to thrive. Think about it. Every time you avoided doing something difficult, making that tough decision, starting that project, getting up early, facing a fear, your brain rewarded you with relief. It gave you a hit of dopamine for staying comfortable. But the tragedy is, you also train it to associate challenge with danger. So when life presents you with opportunities disguised as obstacles, your brain sees threats instead of possibilities. That's why you must consciously force it to do hard things, not because you enjoy pain, but because pain is the currency of progress. You grow every time you stretch yourself beyond what's familiar. Growth doesn't come from reading another book or watching another video. It comes from action, from doing the things that scare you, bore you, and challenge you. When you embrace the uncomfortable, your brain adapts. Neuroplasticity kicks in, new pathways form, and suddenly the thing that once terrified you becomes your new normal. That's the power of forcing your brain to do what it resists. It transforms fear into fuel. When you stop chasing comfort, you start chasing capability. You start building real power. Because comfort makes you soft. It weakens your edge. You lose that hunger that drives greatness. The moment things get too easy, you begin to shrink without even realizing it. You stop asking big questions. You stop taking bold actions. You start playing small just to stay safe. And that safety, over time, it becomes suffocating. Because deep down, every human being knows they're capable of more. But when you live inside comfort too long, you forget that. You forget what you're capable of because you stop testing yourself. You've got to challenge the brain like a muscle. You've got to put it under pressure so it grows stronger. Every time you wake up and choose to push past resistance, you send a signal to your nervous system that you are in control. That's where confidence comes from, not from affirmations, not from waiting until you feel ready, but from proving to yourself that you can do what's hard. That proof creates certainty. Certainty creates power. So when you feel that resistance, that hesitation, that voice that says, I don't feel like it, that's your moment of truth. That's the signal you're standing at the edge of your comfort zone. That's not the moment to retreat, it's the moment to attack. Because that edge is where life begins. That's where the transformation happens. You've got to build the habit of doing what you don't want to do, especially when you don't want to do it. That's how warriors are built. That's how leaders are forged. That's how you build a life that actually excites you instead of one that just feels safe. And here's the truth. You can't feel alive inside the same patterns that keep you comfortable. Comfort will give you rest, but it will never give you fulfillment. It will keep you safe, but it will never make you strong. Every time you choose the easy path, you're teaching your brain that average is acceptable. But every time you choose the hard path, you're teaching it that growth is your standard. And when that becomes your identity, everything in your life changes. Your habits, your energy, your results. You must stop letting your brain convince you that comfort equals happiness. It doesn't. Comfort is temporary pleasure. Growth is lasting fulfillment. And the only way to bridge the gap between who you are and who you could be is to force your brain to do hard things until it learns that discomfort isn't danger. It's direction. Because the truth is, nothing extraordinary was ever built in comfort. Pain. Nobody wants to talk about it, Yet it's the one thing that shapes every powerful transformation in life. People spend their entire lives trying to avoid pain, emotional pain, physical pain, financial pain, rejection, failure. But what they don't realize is that pain isn't the enemy. Pain is the teacher. Pain is the messenger. Pain is the path that introduces you to your true strength. When you stop running from it and start learning from it, that's when you begin to access your power. Every great story begins with a moment of pain. The difference between people who grow and those who crumble isn't that one had an easier life. It's that one decided to use the pain instead of letting it use them. You see, the same energy that breaks some people builds others. Pain is neutral. It's what you attach to it that gives it meaning. When you say, why is this happening to me? You become the victim of it. But when you say, what is this trying to teach me? You become the master of it. Pain will always come. That's not something you get to opt out of. Life will hit you, it will disappoint you. People will leave, things will fall apart, dreams will seem impossible. But that's the moment where the shift begins, when you realize that the discomfort you're feeling isn't punishment, it's preparation. Pain shapes character. It refines purpose. It strips away the noise, the ego, the lies you've told yourself, and it brings you face to face with the truth of who you are. It's life's way of asking, how bad do you really want it? When you're comfortable, you don't grow. But when you're in pain, you're forced to evolve. You start digging deeper, thinking clearer, moving differently. Pain pushes you out of the old version of yourself and demands you step into a new one. Every breakthrough, whether in business, relationships, health, or mindset, has one thing in common: someone was willing to endure what others weren't. They didn't pray for the struggle to end. They prayed for the strength to rise through it. We've been conditioned to believe that happiness means the absence of pain. That's a lie. Happiness is the result of overcoming it. The fulfillment you feel after surviving something hard, after pushing through resistance, after refusing to give up, that's not something comfort can ever give you. You can't buy that feeling. You have to earn it. You have to bleed for it, sweat for it, cry for it. And when you finally make it to the other side, that pain becomes your power. There's beauty in struggle because struggle gives birth to gratitude. Without the contrast of pain, you can't truly appreciate joy. You can't recognize light until you've been in the dark. You can't value peace until you've battled through chaos. So when pain shows up, don't resist it, recognize it. It's life stretching you for something bigger. Every setback, every rejection, every heartbreak, it's carving you into someone more capable, more resilient, more compassionate. When people say, I wish life were easier, what they're really saying is, I wish I didn't have to grow. Because if life were easy, you'd never build endurance, discipline, or mental strength. The truth is, easy never made anyone extraordinary. The people you admire, the ones who inspire you, they've suffered. They've faced things you couldn't imagine. The difference is, they didn't let pain define them. They let it refine them. Pain introduces you to yourself. It shows you what you're really made of. It removes the illusion that you're fragile. Because when you survive what you thought would break you, you begin to realize just how powerful you truly are. The scars you carry aren't signs of weakness. They're symbols of resilience. They tell the story of someone who refused to quit. So the next time you feel pain, instead of numbing it or running from it, lean into it. Ask yourself, what is this pain trying to make me see? What strength is it trying to unlock in me? Because pain doesn't come to destroy, it comes to awaken. It comes to burn away everything that isn't serving your higher purpose. And yes, it hurts. Growth always hurts. But that pain is proof that something inside you is breaking open so something greater can emerge. Don't chase an easy life. Chase a meaningful one. Because meaning comes from challenge. It comes from facing the things you thought you couldn't handle and discovering you actually could. That's where real confidence is born. That's where certainty lives. Pain is not the enemy. Pain is the invitation. It's the threshold between who you are and who you're meant to become. And if you can learn to walk through it instead of around it, you'll never fear it again. Most people think success is about motivation. They wait for that spark, that energy, that perfect morning when they feel like it. But let me tell you something, motivation is fleeting. It's emotional fuel, not a foundation. It comes and goes like the weather. You can't build a powerful life on something that disappears every time you don't feel inspired. If you want real change, real growth, real results, you need something stronger than motivation. You need discipline. Discipline is the muscle that moves you forward when your emotions pull you back. It's what separates the people who dream from the people who do. You can be inspired for a moment, but discipline is what keeps you moving long after the inspiration fades. It's waking up when you're tired, showing up when it's inconvenient, and pushing through when your brain is screaming for comfort. It's not about feeling ready. It's about deciding you're going to act no matter what. See, your brain will give you 1,000 reasons to stop. It'll say, you've done enough, or you deserve a break, or it's too hard. And if you listen, you'll never see what you're truly capable of. Because the truth is, discipline begins where comfort ends. When you force yourself to follow through on what you said you'd do, especially when you don't feel like it, you send a message to your brain that you're in control. That's where power begins. That's how you reclaim authority over your own mind. Motivation will get you started, but discipline keeps you consistent. And consistency is the bridge between intention and transformation. It's not the big moments of inspiration that change your life. It's the small, boring, repetitive actions that compound over time. It's saying no to distractions, yes to effort, and choosing progress over pleasure. Most people lose not because they don't have the ability, but because they don't have the stamina to keep going when it's no longer exciting. You have to train your mind the same way an athlete trains the body. Every repetition strengthens the neural pathways that make action automatic. At first, it's painful. You resist it, you negotiate with yourself. But if you stay consistent long enough, discipline becomes your new comfort zone. You no longer rely on emotion, you rely on commitment. That's when you start to experience freedom. Because freedom isn't doing whatever you want. Freedom is having control over yourself. Think about it, the people you admire, the ones who seem unstoppable, they're not more talented than you. They've just mastered the art of doing what needs to be done regardless of how they feel. They don't wait for the mood to strike. They create momentum through action. Every small win fuels the next one. Every time they honor a commitment to themselves, they build self-respect. That's how confidence is built, not through pep talks, but through proof. And it's in those hard moments, when your body's tired, when your mind is lazy, when your heart wants to quit, that you build the strongest version of yourself. Because it's not hard to do what's easy. Anyone can do that. What defines you is your ability to do what's difficult even when no one's watching. That's the moment your identity shifts. You stop being the person who tries and start being the person who executes. The beauty of discipline is that it rewires your brain for success. Every time you choose discipline over distraction, your brain learns that discomfort equals growth. You begin to crave that feeling of challenge. You start to fall in love with progress, and when that happens, life becomes different. You're no longer controlled by fear, procrastination, or doubt. You're driven by purpose. But here's the catch, you can't be half disciplined. You can't negotiate your standards. Discipline demands full commitment. You either lead your mind or it leads you. And the moment you decide to stop letting emotions dictate your actions, that's the moment you begin to build real freedom. Because once discipline becomes who you are, there's nothing you can't accomplish. So stop waiting to feel ready. Stop waiting to feel inspired. Those feelings will come and go. You can't depend on them. What you can depend on is your ability to decide. Decide that no matter what happens, you'll show up. You'll move forward. You'll execute. You'll keep the promise you made to yourself, even when it's hard. Because discipline isn't a punishment. It's the highest form of self-love. It's the proof that you believe in your future more than your comfort. And when you master discipline, when you no longer need motivation to act, you become unstoppable. Your brain is a powerful machine, but it's also a stubborn one. It loves patterns. It loves familiarity. It loves routine. Whatever you do repeatedly, it learns to automate, good or bad. That's why most people live the same year over and over again and call it a life. They think change is about willpower, but it's not. It's about reprogramming the brain through repetition. You can't think your way into a new life. You have to condition your mind until it becomes your new default setting. Every belief, every habit, every limitation you have is a program that's been installed through repetition, repeated thoughts, repeated emotions, repeated behaviors. The brain doesn't judge whether it's good for you or not. It just reinforces whatever you feed it the most. If you keep feeding it doubt, it'll automate hesitation. If you feed it fear, it'll automate avoidance. If you feed it excuses, it'll automate procrastination. But if you feed it courage, focus, and discipline every single day, it will eventually automate greatness. Reprogramming the brain is not a one-time event. It's a lifestyle. You can't do it once and expect permanent change. You have to do it again and again until it becomes who you are. Think about it. When you first learned to drive a car, you had to think about every move. Now you do it automatically. The same is true for your habits, your mindset, your emotions. The more you practice a new pattern, the more your brain wires it into your identity. That's how you create transformation that lasts. But here's what stops most people. They want instant results. They want to feel different now. They do something uncomfortable for a few days, and when it doesn't work right away, they give up. What they don't realize is that every repetition is rewiring something deep inside. Even when you can't see it, your brain is learning. Every time you push through resistance, you're carving a new pathway. And if you stay consistent long enough, that pathway becomes stronger than the old one. The key is awareness. You have to become conscious of what you're feeding your brain. Because your mind doesn't care whether you program it consciously or unconsciously. It's being programmed either way. Every word you speak, every thought you repeat, every emotion you dwell in, it all becomes data for your subconscious. And the subconscious doesn't take commands, it takes patterns. That's why affirmations alone don't work if you don't act on them. You can't just say you're confident. You have to act confidently over and over again until your brain believes it's true. When you start changing your habits, your brain will resist. It will try to pull you back into old patterns because that's what feels safe. It's not personal, it's biological. But if you stay consistent, something beautiful happens. The discomfort fades, the new pattern becomes natural, and suddenly what used to be hard becomes easy. You've rewired your brain to prefer progress over comfort. That's when change becomes effortless. Every day, you're teaching your brain what kind of person you are. If you repeatedly act with discipline, it learns, I'm someone who follows through. If you repeatedly take action, even when you're scared, it learns, I'm someone who faces fear. The more you repeat those behaviors, the stronger your identity becomes. And once your identity changes, your behavior follows automatically. That's the real secret. It's not about forcing yourself forever. It's about conditioning yourself until the right actions become who you are. You have to train your mind the same way an athlete trains their body, with intention, consistency, and repetition. You can't go to the gym once and expect muscles. You can't think positively once and expect transformation. You've got to show up every single day, even when you don't feel like it. You've got to interrupt old patterns the moment they appear and replace them with new ones that align with your highest standard. Because every time you repeat the right behavior, you're casting a vote for the person you're becoming. And don't underestimate the power of small repetitions. Big changes don't come from one big action, they come from small actions repeated with purpose. The smallest consistent shift done daily compounds into massive transformation. The brain doesn't care how small the effort is, it only cares that you're consistent. So start where you are, decide what you want to reprogram. Maybe it's discipline, maybe it's confidence, maybe it's belief. Then build the habit of doing the hard thing every day, not because you feel like it, but because you're teaching your brain what your new standard is. Over time, those repetitions will hardwire strength, certainty, and power into your identity. You can't negotiate with your old patterns, you have to overwrite them. And the only way to do that is through consistent, intentional repetition. Because every time you choose growth over comfort, you're not just changing your actions, you're changing your wiring. And once you've reprogrammed your brain to crave growth instead of comfort, you'll never go back. At some point, you have to decide who you really are, not who the world told you to be, not who your past shaped you to become, but who you choose to be right now. Most people never make that decision. They go through life reacting instead of creating. They identify as someone who tries, someone who hopes, someone who wishes. But as long as you see yourself that way, you'll always stay stuck. You'll always live beneath your potential because your identity dictates your behavior. You will never rise higher than the story you tell yourself about who you are. Your brain is designed to stay consistent with your identity. If you see yourself as someone who quits when things get hard, you'll find ways to justify quitting. If you see yourself as someone who struggles, you'll unconsciously create struggle. The only way to change your results is to change your identity, to stop seeing yourself as a victim of circumstance and start seeing yourself as the creator of your life. The shift happens the moment you say, this is who I am now, and then back it up with action. That's the real transformation. Because identity isn't just a belief, it's a standard. It's the invisible force that shapes how you think, act, and feel. If your identity is weak, your excuses will always win. But if your identity is strong, your circumstances can't stop you. You could lose everything and still rebuild, because the foundation isn't in what you have, it's in who you are. Too many people spend their lives waiting for proof before they believe. They say, once I'm successful, I'll see myself as successful. Once I'm confident, I'll act confident. But that's not how the brain works. The brain doesn't change first, the identity does. You don't wait for success to feel feel successful. You become successful by showing up like one every single day. You don't wait to be confident. You act with confidence until your mind has no choice but to follow. And yes, it feels uncomfortable at first. It feels fake. It feels like you're pretending. But that's exactly how transformation begins, by doing something different before it feels natural. You're not pretending. You're practicing. You're conditioning your brain to recognize a new version of yourself. Every time you make a powerful decision, every time you keep a promise to yourself, you're proving to your mind that you are no longer the old you. You're teaching it to identify with strength, not weakness, with action, not hesitation. The shift from victim to creator is the most important shift you'll ever make. Victims wait for change. Creators cause it. Victims complain about what they can't control. Creators focus on what they can influence. Victims use their past as an excuse. Creators use it as fuel. And that one mental shift, choosing to own your power instead of surrendering it, changes everything. Because the moment you take full responsibility, you also take full control. You stop saying, I can't, and start asking, how can I? You stop running from your challenges and start running toward them. That's when life starts moving for you instead of against you. Every time you take ownership, your identity expands. You stop seeing yourself as limited. You start seeing yourself as capable. You realize that everything you've been waiting for is already inside you. It just needed a new identity to activate it. Your mind follows your decisions, not your feelings. The moment you decide you're done being the old version of you, you've already begun the process of transformation. The new identity might take time to fully form, but the shift happens instantly. In the decision itself, you have to understand identity isn't found, it's built. It's built through repetition, through choices, through action. Every time you show up for yourself, you're stacking evidence for the person you're becoming. And eventually, that evidence becomes conviction. That conviction becomes certainty. And that certainty becomes your new reality. That's how you build unshakable confidence, not by waiting for it to appear, but by earning it through consistency. So stop identifying with the old story. Stop calling yourself broken, lazy, unlucky, or average. Those labels are lies you've outgrown. Every time you repeat them, you reinforce a version of yourself you no longer want to be. You've got to break that agreement and write a new one. You've got to say, I'm disciplined, I'm focused, I'm unstoppable, I'm in control, and then you've got to act like it until your mind fully believes it. Because once your brain accepts a new identity, it will do everything in its power to stay consistent with it. That's how you create lasting change. Your identity is your destiny. Change who you believe you are, and you'll change what's possible for your life. There's a reward waiting on the other side of every hard thing you've ever avoided. And it's not just success, it's strength. It's not about getting what you want, it's about becoming who you were meant to be. When you start forcing your brain to do the things it doesn't want to do, something incredible happens. You build a level of self-respect that no one can take from you. You stop doubting yourself because you've proven again and again that you can follow through no matter how hard it gets. That's the real reward beyond resistance, the transformation of who you are at your core. Most people never get to experience that feeling because they give up too soon. They hit resistance and think it's a sign to stop. But resistance isn't there to stop you, it's there to strengthen you. It's life's way of asking, how badly do you really want it? Every time you push through that wall, you expand your capacity. You become stronger, more certain, more capable. You start realizing that the limits you thought you had were never real. They were just mental barriers waiting to be shattered. Every goal, every dream, every version of success demands a price. And that price is discomfort. You can't avoid it. You can't bypass it. You have to walk straight through it. The people who live extraordinary lives aren't the ones who never feel fear or frustration. They're the ones who keep going despite it. They understand that the pain of discipline will always cost less than the pain of regret. And when they look back, the struggle becomes their greatest source of pride. Think about it. The moments in your life that made you proud weren't the easy ones. They were the times you fought through doubt, the times you showed up even when you were exhausted, the times you pushed past fear and did it anyway. That's the reward. It's not about applause or validation. It's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you did what was hard and came out stronger on the other side. Your brain wants comfort because it's wired for safety, but your spirit craves growth. Every time you face resistance, you're standing at the intersection of those two forces. One voice says, play it safe. The other says, push forward. And in that moment, your decision determines your destiny. when you choose to go through the resistance instead of avoiding it, you start to unlock a deeper level of fulfillment, one that comfort can never give you. Fulfillment doesn't come from what's easy. It comes from progress. It comes from challenge. It comes from knowing you earned it. Because when you've pushed through enough resistance, you stop chasing happiness. You start commanding it. You stop searching for motivation because your actions create it. You stop looking for validation because your consistency becomes your proof. That's the power that comes from doing what your mind resists. You start to realize that every time you overcame something hard, you weren't just building results, you were building identity. You were becoming someone who follows through, someone who can be counted on, someone who refuses to settle. That's the kind of power that can't be faked or borrowed. It has to be built. And the only way to build it is to walk through the fire, not around it. There's a moment when you're in the middle of the struggle where you'll want to quit. Your mind will tell you it's not worth it, that it's too painful, too hard. But if you can stay in that moment just a little longer, if you can breathe through the discomfort and take one more step, you'll cross a line that most people never do. That's where the magic happens. That's where the growth lives. That's where you stop being controlled by resistance and start using it as fuel. Because resistance is never the enemy. It's the compass. It points you toward the areas that need growth. The places that scare you the most are the exact places you're meant to master. That's how you build emotional strength, mental fortitude, and an unstoppable spirit. And once you've crossed that threshold a few times, resistance no longer intimidates you. It excites you. You start to crave it because you know what's waiting on the other side: power, purpose, and peace. That's the ultimate reward beyond resistance. It's not about getting everything you want. It's about becoming the person who no longer doubts they can handle anything life throws at them. It's not about avoiding the storm. It's about becoming the storm. Because once you realize that every ounce of resistance was just shaping the strongest version of you, you'll stop fearing the hard things forever.